Hello, in part 1 of this talk, we saw how difficult it is to describe human consciousness. But we know the mind is extremely powerful and can reach into higher worlds of consciousness. But what is this world? Are we, as the mystics say, merely drops of water in a vast ocean? When the body dies, do we keep our individuality? These are extremely difficult ideas to come to terms with. In fact, they're mind-boggling. I've tried to address them in my novel, The Unbroken, a love story, an adventure in mysterious worlds of the mind. Our heroine, Eva, has passed over from Earth and found herself alone on a strange island, not knowing where she is or why. Yet she is resilient and begins to explore as her mind gradually adjusts. At length, she discovers a beautiful, calm lake in a volcanic crater, and sitting quietly by the shore, gazing at its still surface, she touches that higher state of mind.
Suddenly, like a moment before creation, I felt entirely empty. I realized that I was nothing. There was nothing to know, nothing to be. It was beautiful. I no longer needed to understand. I stood up, limp as a wet rag, and wished the silent lake would open up and take me down, to disappear. I felt tiny, just a drop of water in an unknowable ocean.
But this level of awareness cannot last, and soon it provokes a thunderous storm throughout Eva's mind and body, leaving a deep aching pain in her heart when it subsides. She realizes that the reason she is here is love. Exhausted and wrestling with these thoughts, she returns to her cabin to rest. But once we've had this experience of the deeper worlds, they will not let us go. So later, she returns asking for answers.
The still water was silvery and translucent. Silence, deeper silence. Then it began. A single B harmonic note opened up the water and drew me in, leaving myself behind and becoming a drop of water that became the unknowable ocean.
And it's now that she remembers everything that happened in her earlier life, and she knows what she has to do to heal the pain of the past.
I knew it was time to go now. I stood, thinking this might be the last time I would come here, slipped off my clothes and walked into the cool, silent lake to bathe away any last fears. It wasn't there. There was no water. I was just standing on black, shiny sheets of lava, feeling silly, a mirage.
Well, Eva would soon leave this place for an even more beautiful one, or, if you like, a higher level of consciousness, where plans get made and different threads of the story come together and gather pace. Having left the physical world far behind, she's mind-hopping. Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics, said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental and matter as derivative from consciousness." He is saying that consciousness is the essential fabric of all reality. It is spiritual, beyond mind, certainly beyond brain. As our brains are instruments of our minds, so our minds are instruments of spirit. Coming back down to earth, it is of course our brains that regulate our bodies, draw in physical experiences through our senses, and all the experiences are stored in the mind, which in turn determines our behavior. But here's the thing. Essentially, we are not our minds. We are conscious beings who experience our minds. We have a higher self. Some call it spirit, some call it the soul. And it does not die when the physical body passes away. How different would life on earth be if this were more widely understood? If more people were aware of our true nature? Instead of pouring our efforts and resources into chasing after bigger houses, cars, more clothes, holidays and worldly status, all of which will pass away, we might focus on caring better for one another and for our world. The planet and humanity itself are under threat now because we're out of harmony with nature and with each other. Apart from the obvious global picture, we don't have to look far to find a plethora of angry conflicts, self-interested prejudice that prevent the healing of relationships and the support of those in need and the restoration of nature. If we are to evolve as a species, we must do all we can to seek this knowledge of the self. The purpose of each human being must be to achieve harmony in every corner of our lives, to live in peace. It's easier said than done, of course. There are many who believe that meditation leads to direct experience of the higher worlds. Written more than 3,000 years ago, the Sanskrit Vedas speak of the Atman, or inner self, becoming at one with Brahman, the universal consciousness. Meditators say that their practice changes how they think and behave, as well as having physical benefits. But even if meditation is not for us, everyone can learn to calm the mind and become receptive to the transcendent spirit of life. It just takes deliberate mindfulness in everyday life, paying attention to dreams, recognizing daily synchronicities, realizing that every event can be meaningful. In these ways we learn self-knowledge, what is important in this world and what is not. Let's face it, we have little control as individuals over what happens around us. But we can control our inner lives and how we respond to events and other people. When we recognize that worldly achievements are transient. Yet we do not have to withdraw from the world. Rather, just understand that spiritual values are what really matter, whatever the world throws at us. This is self-mastery. This is stoicism. And it is a path to true freedom from the storms of life. In his 1971 book, The Way of Transformation, the Zen master Karlfried von Durkheim wrote, "The first necessity is that we should have the courage to face life. By following the spiritual path, we reveal the true depths of who we are, and our indestructible nature can arise within us. Our lives can be transformed. We can become greater."